Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry for the delay. First off on this one, I said I was going to upload it a couple days ago. I recorded it the other day and it was like just super long-winded. I talked for like 45 minutes and I was just like super scatterbrained all over the place. And I just was going through editing it and I just didn't like it. So I'm just going to try to clear things up, make this nice, quick, cohesive, maybe 15-minute video or so. This is the video about preparing and executing my 100 miler that I did. Normally I don't do any like running or anything that's like aside from hiking and backpacking on this channel because the videos normally do bad. I did a 12-hour bike race once. I did like 158 miles and I made a sweet video for it. Like I thought it was like really awesome, and to this day it's like my worst performing video. So I vowed to never put any other content up on this channel like that. But I'm breaking the rule right now because there's been a lot of interest in how I prepared and did this 100 miler. So basically I'm going to start off with preparing for it. First off, I've been running for like 6 years nonstop. I've done a lot of training plans for marathons and bigger races where I've really stuck to a specific mileage per week. And as far as nutrition, like I've done like really proper carb loading in the past. This one, I've kind of been getting away from these strategic plans and been going more with like a listen to your body kind of plan. So that's really what I did on this one. I didn't do really any specific mileage per week. So what I would do is pretty much would run 6 days a week, a lot of 7 milers. In between the 7s, I might do like 3 or 4 miles. That was about the lowest I would go. And then normally like a long run on the weekend. And then towards the end of my, or I guess the last couple months, I did a couple back-to-backs. Like I did a couple like 50K ultras, which were my training runs. I think I did 3 of those. And then like I jump off of those and do like a 10 mile. So it was like a 40 mile within 3 days. There was a couple times when I did like a 16 miler, then a 13 miler next day. So a couple back-to-backs just to get my legs used to running on tired muscles. Honestly, just running 6 days a week, my legs, they're kind of always used to that. So that's the plan I went with. It ended up working really, really well. I was averaging about 150 to 175 miles over the last 4 months. As far as nutrition going into this, first off, I have an iron stomach. A lot of times I'll come home, I'll drink a beer, I'll go on a run, I'll come home, I'll just eat ice cream or cereal, which cereal milk never agrees well, but I always run after I just pound a bunch of food. And with ultra running, you have to consistently fuel. You have to eat like all day long. So I was really almost made for this sport, I feel like. But basically going into it, I YouTubed a lot of things, watched a lot of interviews from pros and whatnot, and people say like 90 calories per hour. Now these are like elites, I think, so I didn't really stick to this completely, but I just use it as like a baseline, like 90 calories per hour. I know my body, I know I need sugar all day long, primarily sugar, and salt a lot, which I was actually supplementing a lot with these little salt capsules. I started taking these probably at mile 40 or 50, I started taking these, but then I was also drinking Gatorade like all day long and just drinking water nonstop at the aid stations because it actually ended up being like super, super hot. So my game plan was to start off eating these gels, which I eat these pretty much solely in marathons. Something at this distance where I was going to be out there all day, I knew I was going to need real food. So I started out eating these because I knew I would really get sick of these after a while. So I probably downed about 10 of these. I was trying to go like every 45 minutes to an hour. In between aid stations, I would eat these. So aid stations are like every 4 to 7 miles. They'll have like a lot of food, salt, pop, candy, like all kinds of different foods. But gels in between the aid stations. I'd get to the aid stations. I would drink like 2 cups of water. I would just pound potato chips. I was really mixing it up all day. Potato chips, bananas, pickles, just really mixing, and it did okay. But back on the preparation note, I just knew I was going to have to eat a lot. and I've kind of been preparing for that my whole life, like I said. Having a strong core is something I've always really heard helps a lot. Not really in preparation for the 100, it just kind of worked out good. I started working out consistently, I think at the end of November. So I was working out, like lifting weights and doing like a lot of core work, just like sit-ups and stuff like that, a lot of leg lifts and stuff, which actually helped legs a little bit. I really don't work out my legs at all. I wasn't doing squats or anything really, but a lot of sit-ups, a lot of like upper body stuff. 6 days a week I was doing that for a couple months, and over the past 2.5 months, I'd say, I've dropped down to about 3 or 4 days. But really saw the benefit in that, especially other races. Like I was doing really fast 5Ks recently, and I feel like the just the running every day and just the good strong core I have really just helped me feel solid. I was lucky enough to have 3 people crewing me for this ultra, which this whole experience went like flawlessly, and it's because every time I would come into an aid station, they were asking me questions: when the last time I ate this, and if I needed this, and how everything was feeling. I mean, they were really like a well-oiled like pit crew. Just super good to me the whole time. I told them, they asked me what my needs were. We actually had like a meeting before this, so we were all on the same page. They printed out tons of documentation like I have right here with all the cutoffs and all the rules and all the directions to where they needed to meet me at. They had everything nailed down. They actually had a folder too. They were writing down all my splits and everything when I was coming in, keeping track of my pace and everything. For all the stuff they were carrying around, I had 6 of these totes. Like this one was my nutrition. I have goos and gels and stuff in here. Right now, I had a lot of regular food in here too. Like, I brought like Pringles and Goldfish. I also had like turkey, and I made sandwiches, peanut butter. I had a peanut butter and banana sandwiches. So I brought tons and tons of food. Not all of it even fit in this tote, but I had 6 totes with everything I would think I would ever need. So food, this was my first aid kit, Body Glide, so I like just applied the shit out of myself before I started just coating my whole body in this. I have like compression sleeves, tape, stuff like this. I actually kept a Red Bull in my first aid kit too. It's kind of a running joke all day that I might need that at some point. I also have like totes that have just like tons of clothing because it was supposed to rain the whole time. It was going to be mid 70s, dropping into the 60s with rain the entire time. So I brought every type of clothing: tank top, long sleeve, short sleeve, rain gear, because you're out there for a full day, and if you run into bad weather or you're cold, go hypothermic. I mean, who knows? I've never pushed myself for that long, so I just wanted to make sure I was really ready. I had another tote with electronics. So basically what I did is I gave each of my 3 crew members a backpack like this. I would slip 2 totes down in the backpack, and they could, because a lot of times you can't park right up to the aid stations, you have to walk a little bit. So they each had a backpack with all the stuff I needed. Like I said, super helpful. Every time I pull into an aid station, they'd ask me what I wanted ready for the next aid station. A lot of times they'd lay out a towel and have just like a buffet that I could walk up and pick things that I wanted. 245 runners started the race at 5 a.m. for the 100-miler. And I believe it was 103 or maybe like 108, one of those numbers is ringing a bell to me, finished the run. So not a ton of people finished. I ended up getting 24th place overall, which was 24 hours and 55 minutes. So I had like a sub 24-hour goal in my head, which is a little bit ambitious considering I've never done that distance before. I've never ran over 50 miles. So I knew it was kind of a tall order for a first 100-miler. But then again, I go into every race with an expectation. I pretty much set a goal for everything I do. And a lot of times I go out a little hard, and I set goals that are a little bit above what I think is possible. But it's worked in the past, and a lot of times I get close to those goals. So here's how it all went down. 5 a.m., 100-milers take off. There's also 50-milers and marathoners, but they started later in the day. But we started off in the dark with headlamps. Mohican, you pretty much start immediately with climbing. So there was a ton of elevation in this course. There was actually 12,000 feet of elevation gain, so vertical gain, 24,000 feet total, which is actually funny because like from Everest base camp to the peak, the summit of Mount Everest is like 12,000 feet. So you're not only like doing 100 miles, you're basically climbing Mount Everest. So I get 4 miles in, I pass through the first aid station, everything's going good. I immediately ditched my shirt 4 miles in. It was so freaking humid. And I think it was either like at mile 4 or mile 8 when I saw my crew that I told them like, dude, it is so freaking hot, like people are gonna be hurting today. Because the humidity level just started rising so fast, especially when the sun came up. And I deal with heat really, really well. It doesn't affect me too much. Actually, I kind of joke around that I like it when it's hot at races because I do well, because I know it hurts people so bad. So I get about 7 miles in and I start having my first issue of the day, which is scary when you're 7 miles in. So basically, anytime my foot would hit this angle, I'd get a root on the outside of my foot, it would really jar my Achilles tendon, which I knew was really, really tight going into this run. It was really hurting, like really bad. And I jarred it probably 6 or 7 times. And at this point, it's just really, really scaring me. The last time I jarred it really good for like 10 or 15 steps, it was in really, really bad pain. This was like a worst case scenario for me. I was honestly having a little bit of a moment where I was just like thinking, this is bad. This is super bad. This is literally the worst I've ever felt on any trail run. So I ride it out and I get to the next aid station and I see my crew and I tell them, having a little bit of weird Achilles issue, left foot. I said, it's nothing to worry about, but I want you guys to figure out how to wrap it up to alleviate the pain. And then I'll see you at the next aid station, we'll wrap it up, and I should be good till then. Which, from that point, I wouldn't see them for another 18 miles. So I knew that was a risk. I also knew that it was way worse than I was leading on. I really didn't want to scare them. And like I told them, it's not a problem, but I want to address it before it becomes a problem. Which was a lie, because it was hurting really bad, like I said. Basically, I just took it like super careful. My left foot, I just really watched where I put it. So I babied it all day long, really giving it all the flat places. Anywhere there was a good flat, non-rooty, non-rocky foothold, my left foot was going there. In turn, what that did was just completely abused my right leg. So my right tendon on the front of my foot that runs up my ankle down the front of my foot, it just took a beating all day long, and it was the worst part of the whole experience. And it's just because it had to take the beating. It got all the crappy footing because the other one had to get babied from the start so bad. So that one started getting a little bad, I'd say halfway through the race. So I'm feeling pretty good from then on out, just being super careful. Miles 20, 30, hit mile 40, and that's when I start kind of having some weird issues with my left calf muscle. Right under my knee back here just started really getting a little tight. It got to the point where I could no longer run uphill anymore, which I wasn't trying to run a lot of uphills. If you're not familiar with ultras, like even the pros don't run up all the hills, like you do a lot of hiking. But basically, even if I couldn't tell I was going up an incline, my muscle was letting me know if it was. So I wasn't running any inclines at all for about 6 miles. I'd say 40 through 46. Those were some of the toughest miles of the entire race, actually, for me. I came out of that okay, though. It's something with preparing for this that I learned that everybody kept saying is that with 100 milers, you're always going to have lows and you're always going to have highs, and it's just going to be a roller coaster through them. So even though something's like really, really hurting or you're going through like a really bad funk, people say that if you just stick with it and ride it out, it'll get better. Like you think that if something's hurting or tightening up, that you're done, like it's going to be like that whole time. You just got to keep your composure and fight through it, and the pain will kind of subside, which I found to be really true. Every pain I had kind of went away, with the exception of my right tendon in my ankle, which continuously got worse and worse. But my calf muscle, it felt pretty good after mile like 46. I reached mile 50, and that's when you're allowed having pacers. So you can have pacers the last 2 laps of the course. So Ashley was going to pace me my first lap, which was 23 miles, and then my friend Becca was going to pace me for the second, I guess the 4th loop. So for 23 miles as well. So I was gonna have 2 pacers. Ashley got a stress fracture, so she was super bummed that she couldn't pace me. We weren't quite sure even leading up to the race what we were gonna do, but we had a couple other friends that wanted to come down and cheer me on and help support. And one of them, my buddy John, paced me for about 8 miles, starting at mile 54, which really helped a lot. Like, it was amazing how much having a pacer like just mentally helps, because I ran alone for a long time. I think there was a 12-mile stretch, about 2 hours, that I ran completely alone and didn't even see anybody, because I was kind of in this weird bubble where I was kind of behind all like the really fast people, but in front of like the main bubble of runners. But he ran with me for 8 miles, and then Becca actually wanted to do a little bit more than her 23-mile loop, and I kind of tried talking her out of it because it was a lot to ask when you don't even get a medal. But the way the aid stations were, her options were a 23-mile pace loop, and the next smallest loop was a 38-mile loop. So she was down. She was more than happy to run with me the last 38 miles, and that's what we did. So we set back out with headlamps. I think at that point it was pretty much getting dark, running into late hours of the night. By this point, I'm totally sick of these goos. I'm just eating food, lots of pickles, lots of watermelons, bananas. The aid station started to have like really warm food, like noodles and the best potato soup ever. Just killing the water, so much water, like I was peeing. I don't know, I probably peed 10 times that day. It's going pretty good. So I'm cruising through mile about 60. Becca gave me some ibuprofen, which I don't really ever take pills, like ever, especially not when I run, but I decided to. I'm not really sure why. I don't know if that was really smart to do that on a race day, but I figured it probably wouldn't hurt. And by mile 63-ish, I felt so good. Like, I was sprinting down hills. I was doing awesome. I felt way better than I did even at mile like 40. So I was still feeling pretty good, like going into a 70, 80, and I remember at one point Ashley gave me a pill and said, take this, you won't feel pain, you got 14 miles to go, because at this point they were like rooting for me to get a sub 24-hour finish. You know, at the beginning of this whole thing, it was Bryce, like they're telling me, like, don't worry about time, just focus on yourself, don't overdo it, pace yourself, just get a finish. But by the end, I think they pretty much knew that I had it in the bag, and they were kind of getting me amped up, ready to go. Which, mind you, earlier on in the race, I asked them like if they knew what place I was in, and they just kind of said that you're up there, you're doing good. And they said they didn't want to tell me, which I didn't fight them on, and I thought that'd kind of be cool to not know the whole day. So I left it to be a surprise. But she gives me this pill, here, 14 miles to go. You won't feel pain. So I take it immediately and then just dart off 4 miles downhill, just killing it. And the pill probably didn't even kick in yet. It was just like this adrenaline of the last time I'm seeing my crew before the finish. And, well, that 4-mile stretch, how good I felt was short-lived, because honestly that pill didn't do much. I had 2 more aid stations to go. Came down to Covered Bridge aid station, drank something. I think I grabbed one thing to eat, just literally like a 2-second in and out aid station throughout. Booking back out to the I finally get to the last aid station. Made it a really quick one too at that. Because at this point, I've already done all I can do. I've eaten so much and drank much, like so much. I had about 6 miles to go. I know I got the thing in the bag, so I'm just like booking, trying to get a good pace or get a good finisher time. I did know, however, earlier on that I could not get the sub 24, but I thought I would still really like to get a 24-hour finish time. So I'm booking, doing good, having pacers out there, like I said. just helped me so much. Just positive energy, someone to talk to, just helped me tremendously out there. We get about 3 or 4 miles to the end, and it just starts pouring. And it was okay at that point because it was supposed to rain all day, and we didn't have it. So we were lucky. There are 3 or 4 miles to go. It starts pouring. It starts getting a little bit cold. I'm a little bit worried about my pacer because she gets really cold really easily. She was being tough. I kept checking on her. She kept saying she wasn't cold, but I know she was. But basically, as soon as it started pouring, I just put my head down and I'm just fighting through the pain at that point. And it really was just that front tendon pain. I don't know what that's called. I call it my frankle, my front ankle, every time I have that pain. But it's definitely like these tendons that splay out into the front of your foot or the top of your foot. If you would have looked at my face the last few miles, I mean, I was gritting my teeth, but it wasn't anything that was unbearable. I still had good energy. I still was doing great, and honestly, the rain might have been the factor that put me under the 25-hour mark, because I don't know if I would have ran that much without taking walking breaks if it wasn't pouring and if I wasn't concerned about my pacer freezing to death. We're getting close, and basically I'm watching the countdown and cross the finish line running. I was able to run we ran probably the last whole mile pretty quick, because I could tell when we popped out of the woods and we had a lot of road section to go that we had about 9 minutes before I missed my 24-hour goal. So we're cooking, probably an 8:30 mile pace, which is fast for being 99 miles into a race. Cross finish line, 24 hours, 55 minutes. Overall, I felt really good still. If it wasn't for that leg, I could have did more. My muscles were actually completely fine. You know, it's one of those things that I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it out loud. But it was easier than I thought it was going to be, all in all. There was times in the middle of the race where I'm thinking man, am I ever going to do this again? Is this going to be a thing? And it only took about half a day after I was out till I really, really want to do it again. I just hope I don't sign up for a 200 miler or something. Going into this, I woke up thinking that this was going to be the hardest day of my life. And there's not many times you wake up when you can actually think that, or that you know that this is going to be the hardest day of my life. And it really wasn't. I mean, I've been through some hard days, maybe not physically hard, but harder mental days than that was. I really didn't have to push through too much pain. I had great energy level. I really was not tired at all. I was blessed with this disorder called ADHD that just gives me so much energy. I never bonk hardly. After the race, I got home, laid down on the couch. The crazy thing is the muscles that were the most sore in my body were up here, my arms. I don't know if I was tensing a lot when I was running or just swinging them, but my arms hurt so bad. And, you know, after you're done, you stiffen up, especially from an hour car ride home. So getting up off the couch, I definitely had to have help, because not only could I not move my legs, because I had them elevated and iced a lot, but you use your arms a lot to push yourself up to get up, when I had to go to the bathroom and stuff. And I couldn't really use my upper body. It literally hurt worse than my legs did. The rest of the day there, so I got done about 6 a.m. The rest of the day, I really couldn't sleep. I think I dozed off twice for probably an hour at a time. Ashley said I was doing nothing but moaning in my sleep, though. I definitely had some decent leg pain that was just sticking with me for a while. And then the next day, I can't remember if it was the next day or the day after, but I was up walking around, feeling okay. My tendon right here, it was the worst. It really hurt for a few days, maybe 6 days or so. It just started feeling better about 2 days ago now. Yesterday was my first day back running. I did about 3 or 4 miles, and it was slow. My knees were feeling it a little bit, which they didn't hurt me at all during the run, but Now that I got my recovery run out of the way, I'm actually feeling better. But the legs held up really, really good. I feel like I did all my training and preparing for this perfectly. Gear-wise, I taped myself with KT tape, or I had them tape me. My watch, Coros Pace, this thing was awesome. I ran it for 50 miles tracking. It was down to 73%. Then just because I didn't want to worry about charging it when I was like really tired at the end of the race, or who knows what would have happened. I just didn't want to have to worry about it. So I ran with the charger plugged in for 8 miles. That boosted it back up to 95% and then ended on like 70%. So I really used about 60% battery life in 25 hours on this watch. So shameless plug for Coros. Links down below. Get free stuff with my code. I don't want to make this a commercial, but they are awesome watches. Shoes, dude. MVP of the day. Other than my crew. My crew was definitely the MVP of the day. Like, I cannot even tell you how much harder this would have been without those girls helping me and John pacing me. But these shoes are Speed Goat 4s made by Hoka. These things are awesome. So, okay, I have my old pair here. I first started training in ultras in these last year. I ran a 50 miler in these and did not get one blister. That is crazy. I always get blisters if I run like anything over like a marathon distance. I wanted to break in a new pair for this though, because I have several hundred miles on these. I ran in these for about 4 or 5 times, maybe a little under 100 miles before I used them on this run. No blisters. No blisters at all. The only irritation I had on my foot was around my ankle where I had my anklet on that had my chip timer. It was kind of this foam, and it kind of was rubbing my leg and cut me in a couple places. But other than that, I had one tiny little, like almost pea-sized blister, like in my left Achilles, and I think it was from that. I don't even think it was from the shoe. Yeah, the feet did good. I had some decent like heat rash all over my feet from being just so hot and sweaty. Oh, and my face, from being so humid, my face was so broke out for like 4 days after this. It was crazy, especially where my headlamp was. But the shoes are amazing. Speed Goats are awesome. I don't know if I really recommend hiking in these for me personally, just because they're really squishy. But if you're going to do like 100 miles, your feet will love this amount of padding. The tongues kind of suck though because they are kind of sharp. They're not padded. But I knew this from running them previously, so I took some KT tape, wrapped it around the front of my ankles just so I wouldn't get irritation. But these things are freaking awesome. I love these shoes. Everything worked out great. Had a little bit of chafing, just one spot where I missed from my arm rubbing. Nothing else chafed. I didn't have to reapply anything. Energy, like I said, was perfect. Muscles held up awesome. It really was a perfect 100-mile experience for me in my book. It went way better than I thought. Like I said, I thought it was going to really test myself. I thought I was really going to have to dig deep. Like I'm going to have to like dig deeper and push through pain I've never felt before, and I never got to that point. So it's just running for 6 years straight and now running 6 days a week. It just pays off. I mean, there's a reason why the pros that do these 100-milers and win them run 150 miles in a week. It's just the more you do it, the better you're going to be. And that's like great advice for hiking too. I can't stress enough. If you want to be a hiker and enjoy it out there and not be in pain like at all when you're backpacking, just start running and amp it up little by little. And when you get to a level where you're running like 3-4 times a week, you will be unstoppable backpacking. But yeah, that's it. I didn't have to use any compression sleeves, or most of my first aid kit really went unused, and it was just a great experience altogether. So special thanks to my crew and my pacers. It would have sucked so bad if you guys weren't there. And thanks to you guys. I know there's a couple of you guys that were out there checking in with my checking in with my crew, seeing how I was. I know Ashley was getting some text during the day, checking on me. Shout out to Paul, he was out there. His son did awesome. He was running it as well, and Jameson at the Hickory Ridge aid station. I saw a can of sweet golden nectar of the gods Yingling lager sitting by the cooler. I'm like, oh dude, that looks good. And he goes, you want a beer? And like for a second, I'm thinking yes, because there was a point in time when I was just craving a cold beer during this run. But I told him, like, no, like, this is business. Like, I got to keep my head in the game. But yeah, that's it. I got my buckle, my 100-mile finisher buckle. If you're curious to why you get a buckle, I know some of you guys that aren't like familiar with ultras might not know. I'll give you like a quick like 15-second reason. So 100 milers, you get a belt buckle instead of your traditional medal, and that's because back in the day, before there were 100-mile races, there was this race called Western States, and it was a horse race. When you finish this race or won it, I'm not sure, you got a belt buckle. But this guy buys a horse that's supposed to be awesome. The horse goes lame early on in the race, and he asks the officials if he ran it, if he could still finish and get his buckle. And they said, yeah, thinking he's not going to do it. Well, he ran 100 miles. First person to ever do it in a race. I'm not sure if it's the first person ever. It might have been. But that was the birth of the 100-miler. Western States later became the first 100-mile foot race in the world, and it's now the like the Super Bowl of 100-milers. All the pros do it. There's a lottery system to get in it. It's basically like the Boston Marathon of ultras. Mohican is actually a qualifier, so a lot of ultras, a lot of 100-milers, you have to pass a certain threshold or a certain time to be able to enter the lottery. Mohican being difficult, all you have to do is finish. So you have to finish it in 32 hours in the cutoff, and you can enter the lottery to possibly be chosen to run Western States, which starts like by Lake Tahoe and I think goes over the Sierras. I could be wrong, but just really cool. So I get to put an entry in. Super stoked about that. If you guys have any questions at all, anything you're wondering, something maybe I didn't go over, put them in the comments below. I love talking about running. I'd do it more on the channel if people didn't hate it. But yeah, put them down below. I'd love to answer all your questions or concerns or comments or whatever. So hit that like button, subscribe, notification bell, follow me on Instagram, do all that shit. And yeah, that's it. So thank you guys so much. See you on the next one.